Jason had never thought his life could change so completely in just one day. He lived a quiet, ordinary life in a small city apartment, enjoying simple routines, morning coffee, walks in the park, evenings with his favorite books. But everything shifted when he received the official notice. He was being assigned an alien roommate. The thought made his chest tighten. He had seen aliens in the news, in stories, even in movies. They were usually strange, dangerous, and terrifying. Yet here he was, staring at a holographic notice with Cale's name floating in glowing letters. The description was vague: species, unknown. Temperament, curious. Cooperation, high, but that curiosity scared him the most. The day Cale arrived, Jason opened the door and froze. Cale was nothing like the terrifying images he had seen in movies. Their tall frame shimmered faintly, like light passing through a translucent prism. Smooth, radiant skin glowed softly in the dim apartment light. Eyes large and luminous watched him with genuine curiosity. There was no hostility, no threat, only a childlike wonder, and that made Jason feel both anxious and strangely protective. "Hello," Cale said, their voice melodic, almost musical. "I am Cale. You are human?" "Yes," Jason said, fumbling. "I'm Jason. Welcome to the apartment." Cale tilted their heads slightly, and a faint glow ran along their skin. "I will observe. I want to understand humans." Jason swallowed. His heart pounded, not from fear, but from the strange thrill of meeting something utterly alien. He had expected hostility or danger, yet here was a being who seemed as curious about him as he was wary of Cale. The first few days were awkward. Cale watched everything Jason did. How he brewed coffee, how he laughed at the news, how he sometimes talked to his plants as if they understood him. Cale asked questions that were simple yet profound. Why do humans smile when they are happy? Why do you touch each other when you are close? Why do you need sleep? Jason answered as best as he could, feeling an unusual pride in his humanity. Cale's curiosity was endless. They touched the walls, the books, even Jason's clothes, fascinated by textures. Every small habit of his life seemed new and magical to Cale. Jason began to notice little details in himself. Things he had taken for granted: the warmth of his bed, the softness of his blanket, the way his laughter sounded in the quiet apartment. Seeing them through Cale's eyes made him appreciate the ordinary in a completely extraordinary way. One night, Jason was in the kitchen when Cale appeared behind him. "You eat differently than I imagined," they said, their glowing eyes fixed on the plate of spaghetti in Jason's hands. "Your food, it seems full of emotion." Jason laughed softly. "You could say that. Humans put a little bit of themselves into everything we do. Cooking, talking, laughing. Even small things matter." Cale's glow pulsed brighter, as if they understood something deeply. "I want to understand everything about humans," they whispered. "Not just food, not just movement. Everything. I want to know how humans feel." Jason's heart ached at the honesty in Cale's words. There was no trick, no threat, no hidden agenda, only curiosity, wonder, and a desire to understand. In that moment, he realized something extraordinary. This wasn't just about having an alien roommate. This was the start of a journey, one that could teach Cale about humans, but also teach Jason about himself, about what it really meant to be human. Little did Jason know. Cale's fascination would soon take a turn into the most intimate, profound, and emotional aspects of human life. And when it did, it would test boundaries, trust, and the depth of connection between two beings from completely different worlds. For now, though, Jason simply smiled and offered Cale a chair. "Come," he said gently. "Let's start with the basics. Let me show you what it means to live as a human." Cale nodded, eyes glowing softly in agreement. And as Jason poured another cup of coffee, he felt a strange mix of excitement, fear, and hope. This was just the beginning, and something deep inside him whispered that his life would never be ordinary again. Jason had never thought his life could change so completely in just one day. He lived a quiet, ordinary life in a small city apartment, enjoying simple routines, morning coffee, walks in the park, evenings with his favorite books. But everything shifted when he received the official notice. He was being assigned an alien roommate. The thought made his chest tighten. He had seen aliens in the news, in stories, even in movies. They were usually strange, dangerous, and terrifying. Yet here he was, staring at a holographic notice with Cale's name floating in glowing letters. The description was vague: species, unknown. Temperament, curious. Cooperation, high, but that curiosity scared him the most. The day Kale arrived, Jason opened the door and froze. Kale was nothing like the terrifying images he had seen in movies. Their tall frame shimmered faintly, like light passing through a translucent prism. Smooth, radiant skin glowed softly in the dim apartment light. Eyes large and luminous watched him with genuine curiosity. There was no hostility, no threat, only a childlike wonder, and that made Jason feel both anxious and strangely protective. "Hello," Kale said, their voice melodic, almost musical. "I am Kale. You are human?" "Yes," Jason said, fumbling. "I'm Jason. Welcome to the apartment." Kale tilted their heads slightly, and a faint glow ran along their skin. "I will observe. I want to understand humans." Jason swallowed. His heart pounded, not from fear, but from the strange thrill of meeting something utterly alien. He had expected hostility or danger, yet here was a being who seemed as curious about him as he was wary of Kale. The first few days were awkward. Kale watched everything Jason did. How he brewed coffee, how he laughed at the news, how he sometimes talked to his plants as if they understood him. Kale asked questions that were simple yet profound. Why do humans smile when they are happy? Why do you touch each other when you are close? Why do you need sleep? Jason answered as best as he could, feeling an unusual pride in his humanity. Kale's curiosity was endless. They touched the walls, the books, even Jason's clothes, fascinated by textures. Every small habit of his life seemed new and magical to Kale. Jason began to notice little details in himself. Things he had taken for granted, the warmth of his bed, the softness of his blanket, the way his laughter sounded in the quiet apartment. Seeing them through Kale's eyes made him appreciate the ordinary in a completely extraordinary way. One night, Jason was in the kitchen when Kale appeared behind him. "You eat differently than I imagined," they said, their glowing eyes fixed on the plate of spaghetti in Jason's hands. "Your food, it seems full of emotion." Jason laughed softly. "You could say that. Humans put a little bit of themselves into everything we do. Cooking, talking, laughing. Even small things matter." Kale's glow pulsed brighter, as if they understood something deeply. "I want to understand everything about humans," they whispered. "Not just food, not just movement. Everything. I want to know how humans feel." Jason's heart ached at the honesty in Kale's words. There was no trick, no threat, no hidden agenda, only curiosity, wonder, and a desire to understand. In that moment, he realized something extraordinary. This wasn't just about having an alien roommate. This was the start of a journey, one that could teach Kale about humans, but also teach Jason about himself, about what it really meant to be human. Little did Jason know. Kale's fascination would soon take a turn into the most intimate, profound, and emotional aspects of human life. And when it did, it would test boundaries, trust, and the depth of connection between two beings from completely different worlds. For now, though, Jason simply smiled and offered Kale a chair. "Come," he said gently. "Let's start with the basics. Let me show you what it means to live as a human." Kale nodded, eyes glowing softly in agreement. And as Jason poured another cup of coffee, he felt a strange mix of excitement, fear, and hope. This was just the beginning, and something deep inside him whispered that his life would never be ordinary again. The days grew longer, and Jason began to notice Kale changing. Their curiosity was no longer just about observation. It was about participation. Kale wanted to experience the human way, to feel emotions as humans did, not just see them from a distance. At first, Jason felt proud Kale was learning, glowing brighter with understanding, but soon he realized that curiosity could be dangerous if it moved too fast. At one quiet evening, Jason was sitting on the couch reading when Kale approached. "Jason," Kale whispered, their glowing skin dimming softly in nervous anticipation. I want to try something. To feel the connection humans feel when they are close." Jason's heart thumped painfully in his chest. He knew Kale meant no harm, but the intensity of the moment made his mind race. This was the boundary between learning and experience, between innocence and intimacy. "Kale," he said gently, "we need to take it slowly. Humans, we feel deeply, and rushing can hurt." Kale tilted their head, their eyes shimmering in the soft light. "I will be careful," they said. "I want to understand fully." Jason sighed, realizing that Kale's desire was sincere. It wasn't just curiosity, it was a longing to bridge the gap between species, to feel life as humans did. Slowly, he reached out and took Kale's hand. Their skin was warm, soft in a way he hadn't expected. A faint, electric thrill ran through him, a mix of wonder and something deeper. Kale mirrored his movements, awkward at first, stumbling over gestures that humans took for lone, but because of their capacity for love, patience, and shared vulnerability. One night, after hours of conversation, Kale reached out and held Jason's hand firmly but gently. I am beginning to feel it, they said, their glow steady and warm. The human way, the connection, the trust. Jason's heart ached with emotion. Yes, Kale, he whispered. That's it. Humans share themselves completely, not just body, but soul. And when that trust exists, life can grow from it. That is the human gift. Kale's eyes shimmered as if they could see the truth of his words. Then, I am ready, they whispered softly. I want to understand fully, to feel what humans feel. With trust. Jason realized that teaching Kale had become more than instruction. It was a shared journey, a journey of understanding, of patience, and of the beauty of connection. Kale's first steps toward human intimacy were not just physical, they were emotional, sacred, and transformative. As they sat together, hands intertwined and hearts open in their quiet apartment, Jason felt a surge of hope and pride. Humanity had given Kale a gift that no technology, no power, no force could replicate, the ability to feel deeply, to trust completely, and to connect in ways that transcended worlds. And Kale, in return, had reminded him why humans were extraordinary. Not because of strength or skill, but because of love, patience, and the courage to open their hearts. The apartment was quiet, filled only with the soft hum of the city outside and the gentle pulse of Kale's glowing skin. Over the past weeks, their connection had grown deeper than Jason could have imagined. Kale was no longer merely observing humans, they were beginning to feel humanity, to understand its subtle rhythms, its emotional depths, and the delicate balance between trust and closeness. Jason watched them sometimes in awe. The way Kale's eyes softened when listening, the slight tilt of their head when they were curious, even the quiet moments when they simply sat together. Every gesture revealed a being learning not just about humans, but about life itself. Jason felt himself changing too. The more he guided Kale, the more he discovered in himself the patience, empathy, and love that made humans extraordinary. One evening, Kale spoke softly, their voice almost a whisper. Jason, I think I am ready to feel fully. To understand the depth humans speak of, the connection, the trust, the love. Jason's heart thumped. This was the moment he had prepared for, but nothing could have readied him for the intensity of it. He reached out, lightly brushing Kale's hand. Kale, it is not just about experience. It is about sharing yourself. Every part of you, humans, we give and we trust. Are you ready for that? Kale's glow brightened, pulsing gently in rhythm with their anticipation. Yes, they said simply. I am ready. I want to understand humans completely. So they began slowly, not with words, but with presence. They sat close together on the couch, hands brushing, shoulders almost touching. Jason guided Kale through simple gestures first. Holding hands, leaning slightly closer, resting a forehead gently against a shoulder. Each movement was filled with intention, a silent conversation of trust and care. Kale responded with a soft glowing warmth, mirroring Jason's movements as they learned the emotional rhythms of humans. Each pulse of light, each subtle gesture, carried a message of understanding, empathy, and connection. Jason realized that this was more than teaching, it was living. Together, they explored the human way of closeness, building a bond deeper than either had known was possible. Sometimes Jason whispered stories of his childhood, of small victories and small regrets. Kale listened intently, their hand resting lightly over his, their glow soft and steady. In return, Kale shared visions of their distant world, of skies that shimmered like liquid crystal, of forests that breathed color instead of air. Jason felt awe at their world, and Kale felt awe at the human heart. Through these quiet exchanges, something extraordinary happened. Jason realized that humans had a strength Kale had not anticipated. It was not in physical power, or in technology, or in knowledge, but in vulnerability, trust, and the willingness to open oneself fully to another being. Kale was learning it firsthand, and Jason was witnessing humanity's quiet, unstoppable strength. That night, as the city lights flickered through the windows, Kale rested their glowing head gently on Jason's shoulder. I understand now, they whispered. I understand humans. I understand connection. I understand you. Jason's heart filled with warmth and pride. And you? You are incredible, he replied softly, letting the moment linger. For the first time, he felt the full meaning of what he had been teaching. It wasn't just about closeness, intimacy, or understanding. It was about the beauty of two beings opening themselves fully to each other, sharing trust and heart across the vast distance of worlds. As they sat in quiet harmony, Jason realized something profound. Humanity's greatest gift was not strength or knowledge, but the ability to love, to trust, and to connect deeply. And Kale, with their curiosity, sincerity, and courage, had shown him that this gift was powerful enough to bridge even the stars. The transformation was complete. Jason was no longer just a human teacher. He was a companion, a guide, and a witness to something beautiful and timeless. Kale was no longer just a curious alien. They were a being who now understood the human heart in a way that transcended species. Together, they had discovered a truth that was rare, powerful, and eternal. Connection was life, and life was extraordinary. The first rays of morning sunlight spilled into the small apartment, catching Kale's glowing skin and casting a warm, soft light across the room. Jason sat quietly on the couch, watching Kale, and felt a wave of awe wash over him. It had been weeks since Kale had arrived, weeks of lessons, laughter, and silent discovery. But now, everything felt different. Kale was no longer just learning. They were living humanity, feeling it deeply, and sharing it with him in ways that went beyond words. Kale looked up at Jason, their luminous eyes soft and warm. "I understand," they whispered. "I understand humans. More than I imagined. I understand trust, connection, and life itself." Jason's chest tightened with emotion. He realized that the journey they had taken together was not just about Kale learning to feel human closeness. It was about both of them discovering what made humanity extraordinary. "You do," he said softly, "and you've made me see it too. Humans, we are strong because we care, because we love, because we trust, even when it's hard." Kale's glow pulsed gently, a rhythm that seemed almost alive. They reached out and held Jason's hand in a gesture of quiet understanding. "I want to share this," they said. "Not just observe, not just feel, but share fully, like humans do, completely." Jason nodded, feeling tears prick at the corners of his eyes. He understood the depth of what Kale was saying. This was more than friendship, more than teaching, more than curiosity. It was the ultimate expression of connection. Two beings from entirely different worlds, choosing to share trust, vulnerability, and heart. So they did. Slowly, carefully, deliberately, they explored the depths of human closeness, not just the physical aspects, but the emotional, spiritual, and heart-driven bonds that made humans extraordinary. Each gesture, each glance, each touch carried meaning. Kale mirrored his patience, his care, his empathy, learning not just emotions, but the feelings behind them. Jason realized that this was the moment humans had always thrived on, the moment when trust and love became something greater than themselves. Humanity's strength was not in power or weapons, but in the courage to open one's heart fully. Kale was learning it firsthand, and Jason felt the pride, awe, and love of sharing that gift with another being. Hours passed in quiet connection. They shared stories, dreams, laughter, and even silence, each moment weaving a tapestry of trust and understanding. Jason could see it in Kale's eyes, comprehension, wonder, and the pure joy of experiencing life fully. And Kale could see it in Jason, the strength of a species that gave itself to others freely, the beauty of love and empathy that no technology could replicate. Finally, they sat together, hands intertwined, foreheads gently touching, hearts in quiet harmony. The apartment was filled with a peaceful glow, both from Kale and from the warmth of shared understanding. Jason whispered softly, "You've learned the greatest human lesson, that life is more than survival. It's love, connection, and trust. That is what makes us human." Kale's glow pulsed warmly. "And I understand now. I am grateful for humans, for you, for this connection." Jason smiled, feeling a strength in humanity he had never fully appreciated before. "And I am grateful for you, Kale, for your curiosity, your sincerity, and your courage to learn. You've reminded me why humans are extraordinary." Outside, the city continued its endless rhythm, but inside that small apartment, two beings from different worlds had discovered something eternal, the power of connection, trust, and love. Humanity had triumphed, not with force, not with skill, not with technology, but with the quiet strength of heart and soul. Jason leaned back, feeling a sense of peace he had never known. Kale rested their head on his shoulder, soft and warm. Together, they had crossed the impossible gap between stars, species, and worlds, discovering something universal, that the true power of life lies in understanding, in empathy, and in the courage to open oneself fully to another. And in that moment, Jason knew something that would stay with him forever. Humans were unstoppable. Ranted. Sometimes their hands brushed too firmly, sometimes too lightly, and Jason would pause, gently guiding them. Humans, we learn by feeling, not by force. Touch is trust, he explained, watching Kale absorb every word. It wasn't perfect. There were moments of tension, moments when Kale's enthusiasm overpowered caution. Once, Kale leaned too close, their luminous eyes wide with curiosity, and Jason flinched. Kale's glow dimmed instantly, and their voice softened, almost trembling. I hurt you. Jason shook his head slowly, his heart aching at Kale's vulnerability. No, Kale, you didn't hurt me. But humans, we take time. Every step matters. We share ourselves slowly, so the connection grows. That's what makes it real. Kale's eyes brightened again, and their glow returned, pulsating gently. I understand, they said. I will be patient. I want to learn properly. Over the next week, they practiced small gestures, holding hands, brushing arms lightly, sitting close without words. Kale's fascination with human emotion became clearer than ever. They laughed at Jason's jokes, sometimes out loud, sometimes silently, as if savoring the sound. They learned to notice subtle changes in his expression, the way his eyes softened when he was relaxed, the way he smiled when he felt safe. Jason realized he was learning too. He had never thought about the power of these small human gestures until now. Kale's presence made him aware of every subtle emotion, every heartbeat, every silent communication humans shared without realizing. He began to see his species differently, not fragile, not ordinary, but capable of deep empathy, trust, and profound connection. One night, after hours of careful practice and shared laughter, Kale leaned back and whispered, I am beginning to feel it. The human way. The connection, the trust. Jason's heart warmed. Yes, he said softly. It's not just about learning. It's about feeling, about understanding, about giving a part of yourself. Humans, we grow through connection. Kale's glow shimmered softly in agreement. And as they sat side by side, hands barely touching, Jason felt a strange mix of excitement and awe. This was more than teaching. This was two beings from entirely different worlds, discovering the beauty of shared experience, the power of patience, and the wonder of human emotion. In that quiet apartment, filled with soft light and gentle laughter, Jason realized something extraordinary. Humans were extraordinary. Not because of technology, strength, or survival instincts, but because of connection, empathy, and trust. And Kale, with all their curiosity and sincerity, was about to experience that truth firsthand. The days passed slowly, but filled with small, meaningful moments. Jason and Kale had settled into a rhythm, a delicate dance of learning, trust, and quiet discovery. Each day, Kale grew more attuned to human ways, not just through observation, but through shared experience. They watched Jason laugh at a silly TV show, gently rested a hand on his shoulder when he seemed tired, and even tried cooking human meals under Jason's guidance. Every gesture carried curiosity and care, every action a step closer to understanding humans on a deeper level. Jason noticed subtle changes in himself too. He had always thought of himself as ordinary, unremarkable, but teaching Kale made him realize the power of human connection. The way he comforted Kale when they became frustrated, the way he smiled at their curiosity, even the way he laughed at their mistakes, he understood more than ever how humans could touch hearts without words. One quiet evening, Kale approached him with a soft glow in their eyes. Jason, I think I understand more about humans, they whispered. I understand closeness. I understand trust. Jason's heart ached with emotion. He had been waiting for this moment, not for a lesson completed, but for Kale to feel what humans truly felt. Yes, Kale, he said gently. Trust is everything. Humans give a part of themselves to each other. That is how bonds form. That is how we share life. Kale blinked slowly, a faint pulse of light running across their skin. I want to share. Like humans do, they said softly, almost shyly. It was strange to see such vulnerability in a being from another world. And Jason felt a rush of warmth he had never experienced before. They spent the night in quiet companionship, talking softly about everything and nothing, exploring each other's thoughts and feelings. Kale listened intently as Jason spoke about childhood memories, small regrets, dreams, and fears. And Jason, in turn, listened as Kale shared stories from their world, from distant planets and glowing forests, from creatures that breathed colors instead of air. It was more than conversation. It was connection, the kind that humans formed through shared vulnerability. Cale's curiosity had transformed into understanding, but it was understanding that carried empathy and care. Every question they asked, every gesture they made, was a reflection of a being trying to experience human intimacy without the words humans used for it. One night, after hours of talking, Cale reached out and lightly touched Jason's hand. The warmth of the contact sent a gentle shiver through him. "I want to feel this fully," Cale said softly. "I want to understand everything humans feel when they are close." Jason took a deep breath. He had anticipated this moment and had been preparing himself for it, both mentally and emotionally. "Cale," he said softly, "humans share more than just touch. We share trust, patience, and respect. Feeling comes from connection, not from force. You have to be patient, just as I am patient with you." Cale nodded, their glow pulsing slowly, almost rhythmically. "I will be patient," they promised. "I will learn from you." That night, they sat together in quiet intimacy, hands lightly brushing, shoulders almost touching. No words were necessary. Each shared glance, each soft pulse of Cale's glow, spoke volumes. Jason realized that teaching Cale about humanity had become a shared journey of discovery, one that revealed the strength, depth, and beauty of human emotion. By the end of the evening, both felt a profound connection. Jason knew this was only the beginning. Cale's journey to understand humans would continue. But they had already learned the most important lesson, that intimacy was not just about biology, but about trust, respect, and the willingness to share oneself fully. In that small apartment, Jason looked at Cale and felt something he could not easily describe. It was awe, pride, and warmth all at once. Humanity had offered Cale a gift no technology, no knowledge, and no power could replicate: the ability to feel, to trust, and to connect on a deeply personal level. And Cale, in return, had reminded him why humans were extraordinary. They were no longer just roommates. They were companions, explorers of each other's worlds, and witnesses to the beauty of connection. And as the night faded into early morning, Jason realized that the lessons they were learning together were shaping them both into something greater than either had known before. Cale's curiosity had grown, deeper than Jason had imagined. It was no longer enough to observe humans, to mimic gestures, or watch emotions from a distance. Cale wanted to understand the most intimate and sacred parts of human life: how humans shared themselves, how they formed bonds, and how life was created through trust and love. One evening, Cale approached Jason, their glow softer than usual, almost shy. "Jason, I want to understand fully," they whispered. "Not just touch, not just closeness. The way humans create life. The way they feel." Jason paused. The words were heavy with meaning. This was not about biology alone, it was about understanding connection, love, and trust. He realized that Cale's desire was pure, not curiosity alone, but the longing to experience the depth of human emotion. He took a deep breath, trying to find words simple enough for Cale to grasp, but honest enough to carry the truth. "Cale," he began gently, "humans don't just make life with the body. It's the heart, the mind, the soul. We give a part of ourselves to someone else. We trust, we care, we connect. That is what makes it real." Cale listened intently, their luminous eyes fixed on him. "I want to understand," they said softly. "I want to feel everything. The emotion first." Jason smiled, a warmth spreading in his chest. This was not about instruction, it was about sharing a human truth with someone who had no frame of reference. "We start slowly," he said. "Not just physically. Humans share feelings, trust, laughter, sadness. Everything. That's how life is created. First comes connection, then the rest can follow." Cale nodded, absorbing every word. "Connection first," they repeated, almost as a mantra. "Emotion, trust, connection." Over the next days, Jason guided Cale through the subtle art of human emotional intimacy. They spent hours sitting together, sharing memories, talking about dreams, fears, and small secrets. Cale asked endless questions. Why do humans cry? Why do we need closeness? Why is touch important? Each question was not about curiosity alone. It was about understanding humans at their core. Jason realized that Cale's fascination had transformed into something extraordinary. They weren't just observing, they were learning empathy, patience, and emotional depth. When Jason shared a story of his childhood, Cale listened quietly, their hand resting lightly on his arm. When Cale spoke of their distant world, of glowing forests and endless skies, Jason listened, feeling awe and wonder that it wasn't just about learning. It was about connection. Every glance, every soft touch, every shared laugh built trust, a bridge between human and alien hearts. Jason understood something profound. Humans were remarkable not because of strength or intelligence,